So this is our time to remember Sidney Kirkpatrick. Not to take away from the celebrations of life that are still going to happen at Congress and in Canada. Just the Cayce people in Canada loved Sid. We really did. He was a fantastic presence, and we miss him. We miss him, and so we wanted to do something for him as well. And I would like to invite Nancy Kirkpatrick.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, good.
All right.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
anyone who hasn't figured it out yet, John is sort of like the glue that keeps us all together. So we really appreciate all he does. Thank you so much for organizing all this. And I also want to thank you all for being here to help remember Sid. And I think one of Sid's two sisters, Catherine, we also call her Kit or Kitty, is I think she's on here tonight. And Sid and his sisters really loved each other very much. They shared many precious years growing up together. And so maybe Catherine can take up the rear of this session to say a quick hello. Catherine has shared a lot of stories of Sid on our memorial website, which is sydneykirkpatrick.com. So if you go there and click on memories, you'll see hers and also a lot of others that people have put up there. We are planning eventually to share stories of Sid's life and work in a book or a blog or, something like that. And so we encourage you, if you haven't done already, to go there and share your own stories as well. It's amazing to me to see, to read so many of these and to know my husband better than I ever did by hearing all of these other stories of kindness and generosity and inspiration, education, you name it. And people have been impacted by his life in so many different ways. So I'm really encouraging everyone. John, I think, is recording this, so we'll be able to capture your stories on this recording, but we really hope you'll put them in writing at sydneykirkpatrick.com. If you go there, you can see a recording of the memorial service. Just click on events, and you'll get to see a recording of the memorial service that was at All Saints Church in Pasadena on November 19th or November 15th. Anyway, I'm going to take a few minutes. I'm going to share some information about Sid that a lot of people have been wanting to hear. And then I'll probably take 15 or 20 minutes, and then we're going to open up for stories. When you do tell your stories, we want to keep them short and sweet so that as many people as possible can participate. So introduce yourself, say how you know Sid, and then go ahead and share your story. We don't expect that you even knew him. Sometimes people have wonderful stories of the impact his work has had on them, even though they might not have met him in person, or maybe they just had phone calls with him. I'm also want to end this hour with a prayer that we can all say together. And then I think John has a special treat to share from Virginia Beach at 6 when we end. I also want to thank everyone so much for their ongoing support and prayers over the almost 4 years of severe illness that Sid went through. It was really very wonderful to have so many people not only praying for us, but sending out prayer requests to their networks and so on. Every once in a while, excuse me, I'm sorry, I would send out messages inviting prayers with some, but not very many details, um, with updates as to what was happening and inviting prayers. I tried to engage everyone from the Cayce community who I had contact information with or for. I know I was always cryptic about Sid's condition. I only asked that folks envision him at his best. That was intentional, as we wanted everyone's minds filled with the healthy Sid, and we didn't want to add to his troubles with people thinking otherwise. Now that he's on the other side and with no physical impact we can have on him, I can share more, and I want to do so because so much of what he went through is unbelievable, frankly. And but perhaps what's even more unbelievable is how he reacted to it. He was always known for his kindness, his generosity, his welcoming personality, sharing his time, sharing his expertise. He was always known for that. And when he was not in a coma or out of his mind, that Sid was always there with whomever he was in contact with, whether it was caregivers, nurses, doctors, unbelievable. And so I think when I share some of what he went through, I think you will be impressed, as am I. He, I think in the 4 years of physical torture that he went through, I think he only got kind of really angry maybe twice. And sometimes he was just quiet and sad. Sometimes, not that often, but sometimes he would just have a good cry. And I think it was more about what he wasn't able to do in this situation he found himself in. He would get weepy a lot when hearing, reading, seeing stories about people who did good deeds for others, sometimes at their own expense. And that he became very emotional when hearing stories like that. And so he really was impacted whenever he heard stories of good deeds. I lived with Sid wherever he was over the almost 4 years, most of the time in a hospital, some of it in skilled nursing facilities. Once in a while, he was able to come home and he was in a hospital bed in our living room where we had caregivers and nurses who came and helped out. I saved his life multiple times through stopping medical error, fighting with insurance companies, or just knowing I literally knew every aspect of his history, his health history, which was ongoing. Of course, I kept copious notes, and I was able to share that constantly with with the rotating nurses and doctors. I do want to do a shout out of all the places he was in. St. Jude in Fullerton, California, was by far the best and the one that we loved, mostly because of the wonderful doctors and the long-term staff. People were there for decades. That tells you something. And even the family members coming in for decades. So shout out to St. Jude. And that's also where at one point St. Jude actually paid Sid a visit, which was really lovely. In any event, in 2021, in December of 2021, Sid had his gallbladder removed in an emergency. We didn't know he had a problem with his gallbladder. If we had known, we might have had time to work on it, maybe a la Cayce, using some Cayce methodology, but it was an emergency. It happened all of a sudden and they removed it. Then a few months later, in May, he started having new problems and he described it as feeling like a hot metal ball was moving through his body. He was in enormous pain. He was throwing up, unable to eat. And so, upon his doctor's recommendation, of course, we took him to the emergency room. And so it turns out, and they did a bunch of procedures because they had left behind some gallstones. And they did 3 different procedures to try and get rid of them. They flushed as far as I know, they flushed some, but they didn't actually remove it. And not long afterward, that gallstone became the bane of Sid's existence in that it blocked his liver ducts, his pancreatic ducts. He had developed terribly painful pancreatitis, which turned into what's called necrotizing pancreatitis, which basically meant his pancreas was dying and taking his innards with it. So he ended up with sepsis. Um, Due to that, he ended up with 4 different surgeries all over the course of 5 days, for 6 days. They keep you open during that time and seal you with some kind of blue plastic, and then they go back in. And so his whole digestive system was screwed, and they had him all disconnected. So for a long time, meaning maybe 1.5 or 2 years. He wasn't eating anything by mouth. He was being fed through his veins. And also they created what's called an ileostomy, where they once his ileum was healed enough, they put food in through that, and then it came up through an ileostomy. So they had him completely disconnected on the inside. Of course, it affected him in multiple ways. There were times he was in a coma. There were times when he was hallucinating. He was out of his mind, and he had a minor heart attack as a result of all this. He was down 70 pounds. It was pretty bad. And so over the next couple of years, he was in and out of hospital, long-term care facilities, and he once in a while he made it home for a little while. When he was doing a little better, we had a hospital bed in the living room. Many times he was traveling by ambulance, really. And when he was mentally normal, he could do a lot. He did a lot of reading. He was reading books. He was reading the New York Times. He was reading the Washington Post. He loved sharing stories with me and whoever was with me about those things. His favorite was pondering the ethicist, and what the questions that would put to the ethicist and what would we say, and so on and so forth. He even managed at one point, he managed to do some interviews for Coast to Coast AM radio. And once, when he had just come home traveling by ambulance, he accepted an invitation from William Shatner's TV show called The Unexplained, related to one of his other books, Hitler's Holy Relics, about Nazis, Nazi gold. And he had just come home maybe a week before by ambulance, and he told them yes. And I said, did you let them know that you're going to have tubes coming in and out of you, and that you throw up on a regular basis, and you'll be traveling in a wheelchair? And no, he didn't tell them that. So I did get on the phone. I warned them. I let them know that he stops and throws up every once in a while. And they said, that's fine. We'll just turn the cameras off. So with the help of my younger daughter, Vienna, we got him over there and we pulled it off. And he was such a pro. He did have to stop once in a while, throw up. They turned off the cameras. He had an excellent memory for what they were after, and he gave a great, very professional interview. One friend of ours, Clark Wicker, says that he saw it and that he wouldn't have known that there was anything wrong with it. It was something about strange stories of World War II, if you want to look it up. In any event, he had a big surgery in November of 23, and a rock star surgeon named, I love saying her name, Dr. Maria Veronica Stapfer at Fullerton, rebuilt his digestive system. It was a 12-hour surgery. We celebrated when she called at the end and said everything went the best it could. But she said, don't feel too celebratory because he's going to be pretty miserable for a long time. And indeed, he came out of that surgery, and it was pretty awful. But he did eventually start to improve. In August of 2024, we were in the emergency room for another one of many bouts of sepsis. And on the way to the hospital, he started to cry and said, I'm going to die today, and I don't want to. I want to be here with you. And so I, of course, said, no, hon, you're going to be okay, And so we went into the hospital, to the emergency room, and I'll try to keep the story short, but essentially his wheelchair fell back when he was just doing one of his usual throwing up, and he asphyxiated, or he drowned, or however you want to put it, and he did die. He was dead. And we called Code Blue. They pulled him, he was still in his chair, but they pulled him onto a bed. I was clapping my hands loudly. Sidney Dale Kirkpatrick, Sidney Dale Kirkpatrick III. I just did that over and over again. And now I wonder what the people in the emergency room were thinking. But in any event, after 2 or 3 minutes, we finally heard the nurse say, "Okay, I have a heartbeat," and they brought him back. And before this all happened, he'd been going back and forth between joking with both the male and the female nurses, getting to know them, and then screaming while they were trying to stick an IV in his arm, and failed multiple times. He was sort of going back and forth with that. But when he came to, he was white as a ghost, threw up again, and then started joking with the nurses right away. He said later that he heard me, and that's probably what brought him back. And that while he was on the other side, his father paid him a lovely visit, and he didn't say anything to him, but he just came and held his hand. But that was quite an experience. Anyway, in August of 2025, he'd been in and out of hospital again with a variety of complications, but he got another bout of sepsis. We ended up in a different hospital, where more of the multiple episodes of medical error, if you want to call it that. They gave him a medication to relax him because he had developed now a lung infection. They were going to intubate him for the third time in this whole affair. And the medication tanked his blood pressure. It destroyed his kidneys. The dialysis tanked his blood pressure again. And the medication to keep his blood pressure up raised his heart rate. The norm is 50 to 100 beats per minute, and his was pumping at 175 per minute. That went on for a couple of days. At this point, my daughter Mercedes reached out to Sid's sisters. They came into town right away, and reached out to my family. And so, in any event, the whole family came the day before he passed away. And I didn't want him to feel fear, and I didn't want him to be afraid. I knew that if he saw all these people arriving, that might have that effect, because I know he wasn't afraid of the afterlife, but he did not want to leave us. Anyway, so it was soon to be his 70th birthday party or birthday. So we did a birthday party the day before he passed, where everyone came. My daughter brought cupcakes. Eldest boy brought balloons, although they wouldn't let them in the room. But in any event, we sang happy birthday. It was just like a birthday party there for him. He was pretty out of it at that point, but he was aware that we were there. That same day, I sent out a prayer request, as I always did, saying that some changes were coming up. And I figured either a miracle would keep him alive, or he would pass on the wings of hundreds and maybe thousands of prayers. And so I did want people to participate, even though I couldn't say one way or another what was coming. So on September 24th, the family came as quickly as they could. He passed at 11:01 a.m. in the morning. And so the question is, so where is he now? Some folks are seeing him in their dreams. Others report carrying on conversations with him. And I want to reiterate again, the incredible grace with which Sid managed all of this is unbelievable, really. I want to read to you what a psychic who we worked with briefly in the last several months wrote, because I asked her to check in with Sidney. So I'm going to read this to you. She said, when I look for Sidney, I find him in front of a group like a teacher, and he's perfectly calm and feels so capable in relaying that information to the audience. Now, by the way, I don't think the psychic fully knew that this is what's one of the things that Sid did a lot of. In any event, there's such a sense that he is remembering who he is. And that might sound a little funny, but all of us wouldn't fit into one body in any incarnation. So I've heard from the ones that I channel that our personality in a lifetime is about 3 to 5% of who we really are. And when we return to the other side, we start to integrate back into that complete sense of self. And it feels like Sidney's in the process of that. Typically, it takes months and months after a person passes away. So let's say that Sidney is not average. I say that with a big smile. And as I've been focused on him, he's turned and I see him looking at me. And he says, I'm really sorry we never got the chance to have that discussion about Atlantis that I promised. She goes on to say, there is a sense of peace mixed with sadness, not devastating, overwhelming sadness, just the sense that this is not what he wanted. He really wanted to stay longer, as challenging as it was, and he's making peace with himself that he just wasn't strong enough to do it. In life, it felt like he had such an intense will, and boy, is that ever true. There was very little that he ever wanted to accomplish that he wasn't able to accomplish. Sid was a doer. He absolutely he did everything he wanted to do, and he wasn't just thinking about things. He went out and did it. Whether as a young man, it was traveling to different places, some of it overseas, doing grave rubbings, which he loved to do at the time. He was a bell ringer in when he was at boarding school, and when he traveled, he would find peals of bells where he could go and ring with other bell ringers. That's his early life. He was passionate about his Scottish heritage. So many things that a lot of the Cayce people wouldn't know about said, because when with you guys all, of course, he was focused on his what turned out to be his greatest passion, which was studying and sharing what he could about the life of Edgar Cayce. Anyway, she goes on to say he feels that his legacy that he left was different than he imagined it would be. He thought his legacy would be about books and information, but he realizes his true legacy is the love that he experienced and shared. And indeed, he loved so many, and so many loved him. He has come to understand that that was the most important part of his life, the giving and the receiving of love. He started to understand that when he got so ill, but it wasn't clear to him how vital that was to his development in relationships to soul until he passed over. He says he's accumulating a folder, and he laughs and winks when he says that. Why would a spirit need a physical folder full of things to share with you, Nancy, when you finally join him? He says, don't hurry, because there's some things, Nancy, that are coming in your life that are really important for you to experience and to be changed by before you reconnect with your larger soul. He is learning, or perhaps remembering, how to connect with those there on his side of the veil. He laughs even as I say that out loud to my recording for you. When you're in time, it's like being on the merry-go-round. You're moving with it, and what's outside of the merry-go-round looks like it's moving at a different speed than you are. He's saying it's like that when he tries to reach and connect with you and dream time, or to make you aware of his presence energetically in the space with you and the children. Reaching out to them, it's like being on that merry-go-round and trying to reach out to what's moving at a different speed. He says he hasn't quite got the knack of it, but he's going to keep at it until he figures it out. That's his current challenge. He says that you, Nancy, will understand that statement because you know that he always liked to have something to challenge him. On a very personal note for you, Nancy, he says you should know you are quite exhausted by everything you've been through, caring about him and learning what it's like to live without his physical presence, even though you know his love is still there with you. Sid is quite delighted with overcoming so many of the physical challenges related to health concerns. He didn't really see that he accomplished physically while he was so ill in the body, but when he got to the other side, he looked back and thought, wow, that was impressive that it didn't actually take me out in the first few moments. And I kept getting back up and fighting and getting back up and fighting. And he's quite proud that he actually of that, actually, as he should be. He looks back at it now like a marathon runner might look back at a race that they finished. And he's quite proud and pleased with the effort he put in. From Jeanette Thomas, I know I'm starting to run into a lot of time here, but anyway, Jeanette is the archivist who trained under Gladys Davis, Cayce's secretary in Twin Soul. Jeanette was there as we researched and wrote our first Cayce book, American Prophet, back in the 90s. So I'm going to read a little bit of what she says. She often sort of hangs out with people on the other side. So throughout the years, Sid has always been special. I met thousands of people, but there's only been one Sid. The guidance to lock you two in the Edgar Cayce Foundation vault, that sort of thing, I knew he was a somebody sent. I expected Sid to survive. All I can puzzle out is that he felt he could do more to change things for the better. On the other side, whatever it was, he packed up and left. I've been with him out of body, talking and going around meeting people, just going about together doing something. I know he's all right. He's already healed and busy, but his absence here is difficult. It sure is. Sid's role in the Cayce work was bigger than life. He came in like a spiritual giant wearing sandals and a robe in his soul from the time of Christ. His vision was true and his wisdom was of the divine. He had been created for a higher purpose with an internal sensitivity from other realms. He touched thousands of lives, uncounted numbers, and they count for the light. You can gather them through sharing. She says, as for me, Nancy, I can only borrow a line from that great spiritual writer, Shakespeare. I shall not look on his like again. We were only given one Sid. I came across something Cayce said recently that when we pass over, we have a birthday, just like the one here when we are born. I thought that was sort of interesting. And then Cayce says, for man enters the earth with a body prepared by others before him, but he leaves the earth with the body soul he has prepared for that realm of the interbetween and can only depend then upon self, according to that done with the creative forces or God's laws. With that in mind, I think Sid is in good stead. I'm gonna end here and let John open for any people sharing stories. Again, if you don't mind telling us who you are and how you know Sid, and it doesn't matter if you never met him, and also just stick to stories about Sid. Other stories we'll have to keep for another day. Thank you, John. Sorry for taking so long.
That's all right. That's all right. Thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing. That was beautiful. That was, I think we all had wet eyes as you were sharing. I I want to share maybe a memory that I had with Sid. So I was the youth coordinator for Edgar Cayce Canada for 6 years. And so I started a youth conference, and my dream was to have a camp. And I would go to a conference and announce that we're looking for a camp. And then one time I announced at a conference we're looking for a camp. And Sid came to me afterwards and said, "You can do it at our place." I said, "Sure, let's do it." Like you said, he was a doer, and it was done. And the kids loved Sid. They'd call him Mr. Sid, and they would just. It's such a big heart for kids. Last time I talked to Sid, I was actually driving. It's in July. I was actually driving to New York City, and he said, "Oh, let me see if I can know someone that you can stay with while you're at New York City." Like he was trying to watch over me, like he was trying to find me a place, and I was like, "Sid, I got a place. I'm good." But even everything he was going through, like he was still like trying to help me. So that's the kind of guy that he was. But I'd like to invite someone. I'd like to invite Kay Fielding, Colleen, um, as a little bit of a story. I was talking to Kay earlier this week, and I was telling them that because she got the messages about proof of the afterlife, and I told her that we're going to do this for Sid, and she started giving a message about Sid. And then at that same time, Nancy Kirkpatrick called me. So Nancy called at the same time as Kay was giving a reading. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was amazing to me. Um, you you were talking about him, and I heard. I wrote it down. I had to change it because he would add something now and then. It was brief. Says a lot. Nancy was like an angel. It was full of angels. He's referring to where he was with Sid. Sid was surrounded by angels. He was with them. All is well. I thought that was pretty nice. It felt powerful. I wish that I wish when things like that come to me that people all around, people who would like to hear it, could hear it like I did, because it's a short and brief, but it was so touching.
It was just synchronicity of Nancy calling at the same time as this was happening. That was
Right.
just, yeah, so
Yeah.
synchronistic.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like all were one somehow.
Yeah.
And I suspect in many ways, many times, it will be together, even though you're not. I've seen that before, but this was really certainly something different than I've ever had before, and it was so sincere and so absolute. It was like you hear that and you know it as what's really there. It's very hard for me to describe it, but it was beautiful.
John, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to add that, I knew I had to call you anyway, but all of a sudden, it's almost like a voice popped into my head that said, call John now. And so I picked up my phone and called. And so who knows, it maybe would sort of, Sid might have arranged the whole thing.
Yes, yeah, that's
Thank
certainly
you. Thank
possible.
you for that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for everything. I know a lot of people feel very grateful for all that you did to help him through all of that, and I know that he did. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for those.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll leave it up to all of you. If there's anything that you would like to share, a memory, just like Nancy said, please state your name and please share. Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Panger from Colorado, and Sid came and talked to our group. Hi, Nancy. Sid came and talked to our group, brought the oroscope, so we had a lot of fun outdoors playing with that oroscope. And then I offered to drive him. He needed a ride back to Boulder because his son was graduating from CU. So I drove him back to Boulder to his son's place, and there was big yellow caution tape in front of the whole thing with broken glass in front of it. And I was very concerned. I said, "Are you going to be safe here, Sid?" Because apparently the night before, the glass had been broken out of the apartment complex that they were in. It was just a very nervous feeling for me to drop him off there in that sort of disheveled area with all that broken glass. Anyway, he was wonderful, and he had been to Denver to do another talk, and his sister just posted one of the pictures of when he was poking his finger into the hole of this machine. And so he did a talk on that in Denver, and he had so many laughs over that. It was hilarious. So anyway, he was such a joy. I'm so glad to have known him.
Thank you, Lori. And just a shout out, Lori led us in a laughing exercise, which was awfully fun. Thank you for that, Lori.
You bet. That was in Montana. It was so much fun.
Yes,
Yes.
in Montana, yes.
I have a story. Hi, Nancy. Uh, I've been a ham radio operator for over 50 years, and I recently took up doing ham radio microwave, which so it's involves using a dish and aiming it precisely and everything like that to communicate with people. And a lot of the people that I've talked to recently are in Canada. There's a lot of activity with that along Lake Erie, up by where I live. Um, After Sid passed on October 4th, his birthday, it was the one day of the month that they set aside to try these microwave contacts between different hams, and a lot of times there's hardly anybody that gets through. But on that particular day, I set up all my equipment and everything, and I just had the antenna just kind of pointed, nowhere special. I turned my radio on, and all of a sudden, all these signals started coming through. And I started talking to these Canadians, and they were like saying, "We've never seen signals so strong come through before on this day." And I was just amazed, and I was talking to people all over the place, and it was just unbelievable. Then after that was all done, I packed up all my equipment, and I'm heading back. And this was in Madison, Ohio, at a little park. And I come back through the town of Madison, and I'm still excited about what all happened. And I drive by this little strip mall to get back onto the interstate to go home, and I caught something out of the corner of my eye, and I had to go back and look at it, and I'm going to share what it is here, hopefully. So I had seen Sid. I hope you can all see that. I had seen Sid tell the story, The Open Door, twice in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And that story always touched me so deeply. And I told Sid that many times. And I went back and looked, and what I had seen out of the corner of my eye that caught my attention was a coffee shop with the name Open Door on it. And I just thought, this whole thing, with all the microwave stuff going on and all the Canadians that I was able to talk to, was definitely Sid's sense of humor. Just saying, what do you think about this, Paul?
Can I add a little something to that?
Sure.
So, going to the theme of Sid was a bold person, and he did everything boldly, and I would guess this was definitely Sid fiddling around with you, Paul. And just very quickly, Star Messick very kindly did a reading for me where we established that perhaps a feather might be a sign of Sid's presence. And the day after Sid's memorial at the All Saints Church in Pasadena, our son-in-law, who works right across the road from that in City Hall, sent us a video of massive numbers of parrots surrounding the area in a big circle. And I thought, that sounds like Sid. One feather won't do it. He's just going to send us thousands. Anyway, another bold story.
Thank you. I think Mark has a memory he'd like to share.
Sid was certainly the best editor I've ever worked with. And, his enthusiasm and encouragement in terms of the articles, Prevention Inward, it was really such a joy to work with somebody, who related to you as a fellow writer, just like that. But I remember one of the things that really impressed me about Sid in terms of, sharing the writing profession was that when he heard that I'd written a book about and done a documentary about the famous Okada mystery, he invited me, and you remember this, Nancy, up to, you both invited me and my wife up to Huntsville to give a talk about the book to members of the Masonic Lodge. And it was I thought that was a real treat. And I was always grateful for that. But from the time that I heard that he was taken ill, he was constantly in my morning prayers. And, there'd be times, as with other people, they kind of drop off the list. And I remember one morning I woke up and I realized as I was doing my prayer time that I hadn't prayed for Sid in a while. And I thought, oh, okay, I made a special mention of Sid. And it was later that day that I heard that he had passed over. I was so glad I prayed for him. Thank you
so much, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I just want to mention, John, that quite a few people found themselves on the day he had passed, suddenly looking into something related to him that they'd been meaning to look into or whatever. They did not know he had died, but something called them to it. Marilyn Butler suddenly looked into something, and I heard a lot of stories like that. So he was clearly reaching out to a lot of people from the other side.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Waiticus here, and I'm not on screen because I have a terrible cold and looking like hell. But I would like to just really thank you, Nancy. We know, and our prayers were with you so strongly in standing by him and taking such good care of him. And, that term about behind a great man is a strong woman, or what is it, a greater woman? Who knows? I don't remember the quote, but I just want to really tell you how fabulous you've been through all this.
Thank you. I know I shared a little more with you because your husband being a doctor, I knew he would understand it better. So you were one of the few people who knew more of the details than most.
Well, I never met Sid in person, but I met Sid through his writing. And it was lovely and inspiring and clear and heartfelt. And I just wanted to say how I felt about when I read his books. It was some of the most inspiring Cayce books I've read. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Nancy was a co-author.
I was,
Thank
but
you,
you know
Nancy.
what? He was the engine behind it all.
Yes, I'm in Ohio, and Sid and Nancy came to Ohio to the Akron area for a weekend, and those of us from Columbus got a carload together and went up on a Saturday, and it was kind of a gray day, and we got there and we were excited to see the horoscope. And when they got there, the horoscope, they didn't have the horoscope with them because it was a gray day. They had left it at the hotel, and they were coming back the next day and they were going to have it then. But those of us from Columbus had to come back to Columbus. And so we didn't get to see the horoscope. But Sid and Nancy came back to Cincinnati sometime later. I don't remember how long the distance was between, but we got to see the horoscope in Cincinnati. We all went down in a carload, and we were so happy to have been able to meet both of them. I doubt that they remember me, but they might remember Marguerite, who was just a super person in our group. Anyway, she's also on the other side, and I'm sure she's made herself aware and conscious of Sid's being there.
Nice.
So anyway, Nancy, my condolences. And I
Thank
think
you.
you're a very, very strong lady. And I just admire you and all that Sid did while he was here that promoted Edgar. So anyway, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Sid loved that horoscope. It was like he was just traveling. He was a traveling horoscope salesman. Not that he ever sold any, but everywhere he went, he brought it with him, and he was more excited about that than anything else. He'd get people set up in the corner and teach them how to use it, and then people would stand in line, and we had to actually manage that situation because we usually were speaking too, so we didn't want them to miss some of the speaking. But a very quick story on that count. So one of the times during Sid's illness, he really wanted to go to a Cayce potluck, which was a couple of hours north of us, put on by Joy Scott, who was the regional director. And it was one of the first times we traveled by car versus being carried around by ambulance. And so we had to get all the poles and the IVs and the wheelchair and everything into the car, and then his first drive, and since he was ill, was a 2-hour trip up to see Joy. And we got him out of the car and into the room and got his IV set up and everything. And what was remarkable is Sid's memory was better than it ever was. And he wanted to get them going on this on the oroscope, which for anyone who doesn't know was an invention by Edgar Cayce to help people see auras. And he just I'm going to be rude and say he just wouldn't shut up. He talked and talked and talked, and we had to stop and get everyone set up for the horoscope so they could do that while he was speaking. It was just in a living room. It was in Joy's living room. It was lovely. Eventually, he tired out, and we had to take him to a bedroom and have him lay down. But I wanted to share that even when he was in deep trouble, he was still obsessed with the horoscope and doing his best to share it. So thank you, Barbara.
Merlin.
Hi. So I guess I'd share mine since Nancy alluded to it. So what happened for me was I'd been thinking about Sid and Nancy for a long time. I knew about the book True Tales, but I hadn't ever read it. And it was just on my mind. So I finally ordered it. And the day that it came, I took it to the beach and I just couldn't stop reading it. I sat at the beach till I got sunburned. Read it every day for I don't know, a few days. And then finally I was so inspired that I posted on Facebook about how fabulous this book was and the link to it and the title and everything. So I could tell people. And then less than an hour after I posted that, I saw another post on Facebook that Sid had made his transition the day before, which was interesting timing to me too, because the day after the day I posted was the anniversary of my husband making his transition. So there was a lot of transition energy in that. But it was so interesting because I was really feeling very communing with Sid and Nancy too during those days I was sitting at the beach, completely enthralled. Every one of those days, I felt like I should have been doing some other work, but I didn't do it. And the book is fabulous, and I love it. So that's what happened. And then when I found out, I texted Nancy and told her where I had been. So with that, and so that was my wonderful connection. Yeah, and I love all the books, of course, but that one was the one that connected me last.
Thank you so much, Meryl.
Thanks,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Elise.
Thank you. I think I'm going to cry, so I hope not. But what I don't have any, exciting story to tell like some of you have shared. But since we are an international group, I would like to mention that Sid and Nancy have always been very generous with the international community. I think their book was translated into Italian, maybe into Czech. I'm not sure what languages. Nancy, you can probably, let us know about that. But because it was what he had done, because it was a large book, he had made a summary of the book and he had sent that to all the international people and given them permission to use that as they wished, in their newsletters or whatever. And that really reflected, he was not after, making money or anything. He would just wanted that information to be shared. And again, that ties to whatever we were saying before, this knowledge just rippling through eternity. And I know that Sid is just, when he's read, like people reading Homer today, read it with all the people, who've read it or heard. And I know that when anybody reads that book or Sid, it's just going to be a collective of all the people who love them and, feel a connection. So, And what Kay was saying before, Nancy is an angel. And I think Nancy needs to be really acknowledged at the same time as Sid, because without her, I don't think Sid would have accomplished, the greatness that he has accomplished. So thank you, Sid. Thank you, Nancy. I dearly love you. And your contribution to the world is forever.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Elise. And thank you for your ongoing constant texts and messages to us, showing your support and your love. And we valued them every time. And thank you so much for that too. And I think it might be translated into French, maybe. We did just give the translation rights to whoever wanted them. We didn't ask them for money or anything.
Yep.
It is definitely in Czechoslovakian. I have one on my bookshelf. And I'm pretty sure Italian and possibly French. I'm sorry that I'm not up on that. I need to look into that. Thank you, Elise.
Thank you.
Nancy, if I may ask, what at the Edgar Cayce universe, which of course was very dear to Sid's heart, do you want to talk anything about that? The future of the Edgar Cayce?
Yeah, there are two aspects to Edgar Cayce universe. So there's the website. It's a Substack, Edgar Cayce. I think it's called cayceuniverse.com. And so some of the stories that Sid and I, to a lesser degree, wrote are up there. So they're new and different from what you'll read elsewhere. And we are going to continue that going. And there are a zillion articles that have not been published. So I'm hoping once things settle down that we'll be able to continue putting up. I've got at least almost 40 other articles that I could start putting up there for people to share. Some of them were published in Venture Inward, but maybe a long time ago. And people wouldn't necessarily have easy access to them. And so, so we're continuing that. And then we also have been doing research where we're learning more and more about the recipients of the readings. And that work will continue, not to the degree that it was obviously when Sid was in charge, but we're not letting that go. And hoping that somehow we might be able to connect it up to artificial intelligence and that sort of thing. So that people can really find things and get summaries when they want them and so on. So thank you for asking, Mark. Thank you. So it's called cayceuniverse.com if anyone wants to go visit there.
Sorry, I want to give some time to Catherine Kirkpatrick as well. So I want to invite Catherine if you want to say some memories or some words as well.
Okay, here I am. This is such a lovely occasion. Thank you all. Most of all, thank you, Nancy, for everything. Nancy can never be thanked enough. And, I wish I had recorded everything that was just said. So is this being recorded, John?
It is being recorded, yes.
Yeah, because I wish I had put my phone on, because there were wonderful things that were being said. Thank you very much. So I'm sending a big hug to everyone here. I just thank you. This is a very meaningful session to me. So I could go on with all kinds of stories, and Sid was the most wonderful big brother ever. He just was always my favorite. So he was 8 when I was born, and he just was the most wonderful big brother. I mean, life was just much better if he was around. So, and if he wasn't around, it was just terribly lonely, because I'm 10 years younger than my sister and 8.5 years younger than my brother. So there was the two of them, and then there was me. And they were very adoring to me, and so it was nothing like sibling rivalries or anything like that. It just was these wonderful big brother and big sister people in my life. And there were times when they just weren't around. And when they were around, I just was so happy because they went away to boarding school. And, I never did that. I was at home. And I don't know. It's just, whenever they were around, I was just so happy. And there was a time, high school was kind of challenging. Sid came back from, I don't know, some of you may know that he was in China and other places for a while. He came back and he was in New York City in film school. So I grew up on Long Island, 60 miles east of New York City. So Sid was in film school in New York City. So, and I was in high school. And that was just like the absolute thrill of my life when my big brother would take me places and I got to visit him in the city. And, it's interesting. My mother was extremely protective. She didn't really allow me to do anything, but oddly enough, it was this huge, wonderful joy that, she set me free when she let me have time with Sid. And my dad was a travel agent, among other businesses that he started. And anyway, my parents were away, and they'd let me be taken care of by Sid. And he came with these colleagues from the film school. It's really, really expensive to make movies in New York City. So anyway, the long and short of it is that our home was usually when Sid came, I don't know, not always, but he'd come with some of these people, whether he even knew them or not. I mean, anyway, and there were all of these really interesting people from NYU Film School. So that was just the thrill of my life, especially if my parents were gone for a week or two. I just loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it. So these characters were making films, and they had me I was in one of the films, and I'm sneaking downstairs holding a kitchen knife, and then I'm stabbing a pillow. It was some kind of murder thing. Anyway, I just loved it. I just loved it. This was before VCRs and all of this kind of thing. Well before streaming and DVDs, nothing like that. And Sid had films that he got from NYU Film Library, reel-to-reel films, and we'd watch them in the living room. And Sid always just had a lot of ideas, and he came with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm, and he was very, very doting and kind to me. So I think it's probably time to wrap up. I will say one thing about his illness, and I was able to be with him a number of times in the last number of years, and Sid was always wonderful. He was always, always wonderful. He always had this big aura. It got even more so. I mean, it just very, very, very expansive aura. I believe his soul is being polished in all of this miserable stuff that happened. I believe he was always radiant. He became more so. I do think that he spent a lot of time thinking about things or whatever, I think he had his life review in advance. I mean, I think Nancy was mentioning this about him sort of coming into heaven with a, jump start and all the Cayce work. I think this is absolutely, absolutely true. And so I think he has manifested pretty much right away to quite a few of us. And I think he was really able to do that because of this sort of misery that he was going through. I think he was just ready to run, after this, just ready to run and get going and do things. And I've been getting, a lot of cards from people, may he rest in peace and all of it. No, it's nothing like that. He's extremely active and doing.
One of my brothers had a dream almost right away. He was playing tennis with Sid.
Oh wow,
so
really?
I wanted to tie up with a prayer that we could all share. Is that okay, John, to do that?
Sure,
But
absolutely.
I know you have to move on to your illumination.
Yeah, sorry,
So
that's okay. Maybe we can once the illumination is over, it's going to be our supper time. So maybe we can continue sharing on our supper time.
okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely possible too. Let me
So
yeah, I'll
so
share my screen for you, Nancy.
sorry.
I'll share my screen for you for the prayer.
Thank you. And just a quick thing in response to one of the things that Kitty said is Sid actually, we were actually working on an article that we wanted to publish for John Van Auken, and we didn't ever finish it, unfortunately. But some of the things he was writing about is exactly about the life review, where he kept he kept going in and out of memories from even when he was almost an infant. And so I do believe she's right that he was doing a life review before he even left. So anyway, of all the helpful information from Edgar Cayce, one of the most comforting, of course, is the promise that life is continuous. Our time on earth is just one aspect of our soul's journey of growth and transformation. He says not only will we meet our loved ones again beyond the veil, but so, what we know as physical death, but our relationships with them will continue. Cayce suggests that one of the greatest gifts we can give to someone who has passed on is to pray for them. And most important, to pray that they will recognize
your iPhone
that,
first.
and especially if they might not have even known they passed on. Now, of course, I don't think that's a problem for Sid, but it can be for others. He says that those we love on the other side are actually are close to us, are as close to us as our thoughts, and we can be most helpful by focusing on the happy times together and releasing as much as we can the sadness and grief we feel at their passing. I am challenged with some of that. I know he's still there. I guess for me, the biggest challenge is accepting the torture he went through for all those years, and all for naught, in the sense that we went through it because he was going to survive. In any event, he says, "Yea, pray off for those who have passed on. This is part of thy consciousness. It is well. For God is God of the living. Those who have passed through God's other door are oft listening. They're listening for the voice of those they have loved in the earth, the nearest and dearest thing they have been conscious of in earthly consciousness. And the prayers of others that are still in the earth may ascend to the throne of God, and the angel of each entity stands before the throne to make intercession. Not as a physical throne, no, but that consciousness in which we may be so attuned that we become one with the whole in lending power and strength to each entity for whom ye speak and pray." And 1933, the Glad Helpers prayer group, they asked, please give a prayer for those who have passed on. And Cayce has offered that. And so if you will join and share, this is for everybody. This is for everybody. Let's say it maybe 2 times. together. Father, in thy love, thy mercy, be thou near those who are in and have recently entered the borderland. May I aid when thou seest that thou canst use me.
It's very simple.
Let's say it one more time. Father, in thy
Father,
love,
in thy love,
thy
thy
mercy,
mercy,
be thou near
near
those who are
those
in
who are in
and
and
have
have
recently
recently
entered
entered the
the borderland.
borderland.
May
May
I
I
aid
aid
when
when
thou
thou
seest
seest thou
that
canst
thou canst use
use
me.
me.
Thank you. And just a reminder, we love to read your stories, and you can read other stories. Go to sydneykirkpatrick.com, click on memories. If you want to see a recording of the memorial service, which was very beautiful, I click on events, and there's a link there to that, as well as to the order of what do they call that? Order of whatever the
Service, yeah.
order of service, which has some lovely messages there as well in the order of service. And I'm going to be putting a few other things up there in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. And then the ARE will be doing a memorial service for Sid, or a celebration of life in June at Congress. I don't know the exact time and date. We're going to be doing something in Sid's hometown, which is Stony Brook on Long Island in New York. We don't have a date for that yet. And then in Canada, in Huntsville, we're doing something on July 18th, where actually the whole family's coming up for a whole week. And on Saturday, July 18th, we're doing something there in Canada. And if you happen to be local in Laguna, we're doing something here at the end of this month. So
I'll see you in Canada, Nancy. Antonia.
wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
So this is the dinner hour, is it?
It's the dinner hour. If anyone still wants to share, feel free to share. Otherwise, we can take a break and reconvene here at 7 o'clock. So it's up to you. We can keep on sharing, or we can break for dinner.
I just saw that Faith Harding is on the call here, so I just Faith there. So
Faith,
mute yourself.
We love you, Faith. We love you, love you, love you. Can we talk?
Muted,
We
Faith.
talk more about
You're
you?
muted.
How's that?
We hear you.
Perfect.
Nancy,
We
you
love
did a
you,
great
Faith.
job. I'm
Thank
very
you.
proud of you.
Thank you. We love you so much, Faith.
Everybody was just great there. And Danielle is here, Danielle Blackmore.
Hello,
Hi,
Danielle.
Danielle. Hi, Danielle. Is Vince there too, or no?
Nope, I left him back home, so I just came down to stay.
Well, thank you for helping her get on like this.
Oh, well, I wasn't supposed to be on. I had no plan to be on. But
Faith, can we tell them something a little bit about you before you tell a story?
Yeah, but can I say first that when Sid and you introduced me to the ARE, I never knew I was getting a new family. Thank you.
And indeed, you have a huge, loving, and adoring family now.
They're great. I have just been enamored by most of the people I've met, and there's like no end to it. So thank you, Nancy and Sid.
Do you want to share a story, but can I introduce you first?
Go right ahead.
So everybody, this is the remarkable Faith Harding, who had at least 3 readings when she was around 4 years old. Her mother and friends organized readings, and this is the one community where Faith can be who she really is. You can't go into church and say, "Hey, I'm the reincarnation of the mother of John the Baptist," or "I'm the reincarnation of Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music." But we were so grateful to find Faith many years ago, before our first book even came out. It was in the late 90s. It wasn't easy because we didn't have the internet like we do now. But what we did is we figured out a few names and we bought the telephone telephone book for the entire nation, on CDs, and eventually found Faith. We were a little nervous because in at least one of the readings that were done with Faith, the Archangel Michael showed up, and he was pretty angry with what was going on between her parents. So at first it was like, oh, I don't want to piss off the Archangel Michael. But then we thought to ourselves, you know what? If he doesn't want us to find her, we will not. And so he allowed us to find her, and there's a whole long story in and around that first meeting Faith, and slowly over time we convinced her to come out of the closet. And after several years, she actually came to Congress a few years. And there's actually one of the chapters in our True Tales book is all about Faith. And when we were at Congress, she would sign that chapter for people. And it's a wonderful story. So I'll leave it at that. But we're so grateful to have Faith in our lives. We just love her so much.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I love you too. I always have. You've done a great job. You've been a bulwark for your husband, and I know he still appreciates you.
Thank you. Can you share a story?
Which one would you like to hear?
Whatever you feel inspired to share.
No, Sid, you and Sid were very special to me, and every time we were together was very special. So how do you pick?
Can you remember when we first approached you? Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, it was a little embarrassing because my friend had friends of his here from Pennsylvania that knew nothing about me. And yeah, it was just a little bit embarrassing, but I got over it. But I'm glad things worked out the way they did. I've had a lot of fun with the Cayce movement and with Sid and Nancy and with all the other nice people like Carol Sue, who came down and spent a few days with me and took me to a conference. And yeah, it's been great. It's been a great.
And Danielle and Vince, who come to visit you a lot, are big Cayce fans.
Danielle and Vince are very special in my life.
We love this lady, so we'd do anything in the world for her. So thank you for getting us connected. So.
And then you become very friendly with Herb per year, who lives not far from you.
Herb,
and Anne, his wife.
He's an absolute darling. I miss Anne terribly. From the time Sid, you weren't available the first time I met Anne, and Sid took me to the Logos Center to meet Anne and Herb. And Anne immediately felt that we were special sisters. So we maintained a very close relationship until she passed away. Herb is a very special, intelligent man, and I'm very happy to make his acquaintance.
And how old is he now? 90? Is Herb here?
He just had a birthday. He turned 97.
Wow. And he lifts weights and he speaks at conventions and is a great example of living the Cayce life.
He's great.
We're going to try maybe to go see him while I'm here, if we have time. So.
Oh, good. That's great. Thank you.
He'll be presenting this evening at this conference.
Right.
Wonderful.
Well, we heard that, so we'll be tuned in, and we may call him tomorrow and check in with him.
I'm glad you're staying in touch a lot.
I stay in touch with a lot of people. Carol Sue is up there, and by the way, you told me you wanted to introduce me to Julie, but you never gave me your phone number, so you might
Oh, okay.
buy
I will do that. Yes.
And Paul Mazza has become a very good friend in my life, and
And Clark, you've made friends with Clark Wicker.
oh yeah, Clark and Star, they were special here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to hear the quick story about the toothbrush. I know Clark told you. So
Go ahead,
you want
please.
to tell it?
No, you
Yeah.
tell it. It's your
Yeah.
story.
Okay. Well, it was actually the day before Carol Sue came down for the conference. And I was sitting in my living room. I had just watched some TV and I heard a noise and I came out to see what was humming or buzzing or whatever it was. And I looked outside and it wasn't out there. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's in the bathroom. Did I blow a tap or what? So I went in the bathroom and here's my electric toothbrush on and in the sink. Okay, well, that was strange. So I came out and I sat down here at the kitchen table where I am now, and I hear clunk. And I went back in, and here's my toothbrush in the sink, but it wasn't on.
Oh.
So anyway, my son came and I told him about it, and we said, well, strange things happen. Maybe somebody's saying hello. So I'm sitting here, and it was about 2 hours later. I heard my toothbrush again, and I went back in, and it was back in the sink, buzzing away. I turned it off. I tried to, and it wouldn't turn off, so I put it on the charger. But then when I went to use it again, it wouldn't work. So I told Clark about it at the conference. And he said, "Don't you throw that toothbrush away." He said, "That's Sidney."
So Sid is now embodied in an electric toothbrush.
He adopted my toothbrush.
Did it ever start working again?
No, I told Clark, I said, if you want it, you better come and get it because I'm throwing it out. But it was a very strange occurrence. I mean, it wasn't sitting on the edge of the counter. It was tucked back under the cabinet. So I don't know. Somebody had to be around and having some fun.
That sounds just like my husband.
Well,
And didn't you also say that you thought you got a glimpse of him at the pearly gates?
Yes, I did. They weren't the pearly gates. They were. I was in between that stage of sleep and dozing, and I saw him. He was standing like sideways, looking back at me, waving and smiling, and it was a huge doorway. The door was a regular doorway, but it was surrounded by the dark red trim, huge trim, like you would see on a temple.
Mm-hmm.
That was
nice.
That was what I saw.
Nice.
Well, no matter what, I know he's in heaven. That's the only place for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And already having fun. I'm sure he's enjoying having a body back. Everybody seems to be seeing him around age in the middle 30s, maybe late 20s, 30s. And when I ask them to describe his clothing, it's always right on in terms of what were Sid's outfits or favorite clothes,
Good. Yes, I did describe them for you. It took me a while, though, to get in my head what it was. But Nancy and John, you've done a great job. I'm looking forward to seeing Herb on here.
It's good to see you, Faith.
You too, John. Love you.
Love you
Nancy,
too.
sorry.
Here, Greg.
Nancy, may I ask a question? It's one of the most intriguing stories I find. You see, a man can't be a king without a queen, and Nancy was the one. Can you please share how you inspired him with the notes in his mailbox in the Santa Monica area, and how you got him to get around to even looking into Cayce? That is so amazing. It was you all along.
You know, it's I mean, I guess I feel like I was born with a mission, and it has to do with Edgar Cayce. And actually at one point, I'll share this very quick story. This was long after Sid and I were already married and together, where Anne Perrier, Herb's wife, who is a psychic, sent a message, which was from Edgar Cayce. And I have to say, in many ways, that was the best day of my life, because I'm thanking me. Apparently, I was his wife in a previous life. I kind of, my answer was, I thought all of his wives were accounted for. But in any event, whether it's true or not, I don't know. I loved hearing it, the gist of it was that this was my life's work. I have a theory that Sid, when I met Sid, he was already a best-selling author. We had children together in the kindergarten. My theory is that they made him a best-selling author just so that he would become someone readers would trust, that he wasn't just making his way as a Cayce scholar, but rather he was coming from the outside. And he initially was quite a skeptic. And so, yes, we met. I was intrigued, as so many people are when they meet an author, and I don't know even what prompted me to say, something along the lines of, "Have you heard of Edgar Cayce? We really need a biography." But somewhere along the way, I did that, and then I had to convince him. And yes, the school, which was in Pasadena, California. The parents had cubbies, where messages were left, and yes, I did leave a lot of stuff there over the course of time. And eventually, but he really didn't become a convert until well after we started the book itself, which was in the late 90s, and the second half of the 90s. And somewhere along the way, he became a convert. And he had certain experiences where he had certain sensations, smells, and things, and different other kind of messages, you might say. Plus, psychics were bringing us messages frequently, but they lined up with what apparently had been left as a message, an overt message that people should look for as evidence that Cayce was present. So. I do remember working on the project, feeling just phenomenal gratitude for having that opportunity. And eventually he came around, and it broadened. He was interested in spirituality. He did go to church. He was, an Episcopalian. He even went for a while and studied what it was. He actually became a Catholic for a while because he was interested in that process. But in any event, but it was more traditional Christianity. And so it definitely broadened his horizons greatly. And as he has said many times, changed how he led his life. And he always called it BC and AC, before Cayce and after Cayce. So thank you for asking. Now, I want to get a message from you, because I know you did an interview with Sid, and at the end, which I didn't get to, you, Antonia, didn't you
Yes.
give him some information? And
Yes,
I got
did.
interrupted. I never got to that point. So at some point, that would be interesting to learn more about.
I'll send you that piece, and that way it'll be timestamped. So when you have a moment, when you do, you're welcome to listen. Okay, just share that.
Yeah, thank you. And if you feel so inclined, you could upload that piece separately to the memorial page so that other people can see it too.
I did.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Hi, Faith.
Hi.
And Nancy, it was you just reminded me of something. My brother John, that you met when we came up to Canada,
Yeah.
he told me recently that one of the ladies that he's close to at his church, that her favorite author is Sidney Kirkpatrick. Her favorite
Really?
book, not a Cayce book, but it was the one about Hollywood,
Oh,
cast of
Cast of Killers.
cast of killers.
Yeah.
And when my brother told her that, oh, I met Sid, she was so jealous.
Isn't that something?
Is that
Isn't that
something?
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, people, I was really surprised after he passed away that people from all those other realms, like his other books, started contacting me. And I have no idea how they heard about it because most of the news was traveling through the Cayce network. But that's lovely to hear. That book was written back in the late 80s. So it's nice that there's still people reading it.
I have a question for Faith. Faith, how old are you now?
90.
You're 90. Still going strong.
Absolutely.
I'm not below the earth yet.
Faith
So
has
what's
a wonderful prayer list that she keeps. That we need those prayers, Faith.
You have them.
Thank you.
Everybody has them. Every night.
every night you say prayers?
I pray every night, and if I can't fall asleep, I give each name individually.
Oh wow.
And it's a long list. Nancy
Absolutely.
do it.
Pardon?
Nancy keeps adding to my prayer
I
list.
do. And you take them. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Very welcome. I can do what I can do. That's all I can do.
When Faith used to started to come out of the closet and would come to some of the different Cayce events, she would say to me, "What should I do? What should I do?" And we always, of course, had her lead us in prayer, but I also said, just hug people, just let them feel your energy, and so she did. She was a hug machine. I'd get her to stand at the door as people were leaving, and she'd hug each of them.
Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Vince Blackmore made it a point that when I came down off the stage, he was the first one to get a hug.
Oh, I bet you people were fighting for first position. They definitely were standing in line.
Oh, it was overwhelming. Beautiful. When you're surrounded by beautiful people, you can't help but feel beautiful.
So much love, Faith.
Vince, you have your microphone off. I'm sorry you didn't get to share this morning. Did you want to share now and tell a story about Faith or Sid?
Hi, Vince.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to share how we got to the ARE. It was definitely after they announced that Faith was going to be there. And so by good fortune, Danielle and I booked the same hotel that Sid and Nancy were in. And I was literally Twitter-pated to meet him. And I got on the elevator and rode down and walked straight into him. And I just couldn't believe my good fortune. I had to run back and tell my wife I just saw Sid. And we got really, it was just a really wonderful experience. And then when we got to the ARE, we were able to be part of the VIP luncheon with Faith. And so that was when we actually got to meet her. And June Bro was there with her companion. And just a side note, she cussed me out. It was kind of funny. We'll tell that story later. But it was truly a thrilling experience to meet both Sidney and you, Nancy. And then Faith was just, she's been very close to us ever since that day. We've really never left each other's side. she's been to our home and we've been to hers, and love each other dearly. And so I want to tell you, Nancy, that you and Sidney really brought Faith and a lot of people together. I don't know, but Faith might be one of the last people alive that did receive a reading. And it's a real privilege for everyone to get to know her and see what a special lady she is. And there's so much more to her. But you opened that door for us, Nancy. And I've known about Edgar Cayce since I was about 10 years old. And for the last 15 years, I've dedicated my entire life to studying his work and applying all of the principles that he teaches. And this has been a fantastic conference. All of the speakers have had such great insight. John, you did a fantastic job. Nancy, you guys are rock stars. I love you so much. So on that day at lunch, Sidney brought the horoscope, and I got to use the horoscope. So let's get the plans out and do another one. But anyhow, guys, I love you. I love you all, dear. Nancy, our hearts are with you, love.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've got something else too. Nancy, I want to thank you and Sid for arranging to bring George Conjar to Congress. I was behind the camera in 1998, Memorial Day weekend. Jeanette said, I'd like to have you videotape somebody if you can come up to Pennsylvania. And I said, sure. And so I was behind the camera and tears were rolling down my face as he's telling his story about how he was cured of tuberculosis by Cayce. And thank you for bringing him. Thank you for listening to me tell the story up there in Huntsville. And thank you for putting the story in True Tales. And I've shared it with many people. And it's just, I would watch that video over and over again and kept thinking somehow or other, this story has to be told. It was just so amazing, his recovery. And so thank you again.
You know, that was one of Sid's most favorite stories. And as you said, he brought him to Congress. But what was kind of, I guess, sort of fun about the whole thing is he did a whole presentation and nobody knew that George and his family were in the audience. And I think people just assumed that he was long ago passed away. And so, you know, Sid was good with these surprises, right? And so at the very end.
He played it so well because at the very end he put up a photo of of George's family, and on it said "in loving memory of George Conjar," but it was George Conjar Jr., his son, who had passed away. And so everybody kind of assumed that George was already gone. And then he said something like, and that's why George is here with us today. And then Harmon was at George's checkup reading. The follow-up reading. Harmon was at it, so I introduced George to June.
To Pam or to June?
To Pam and to June. They were both there, and so they got to talk for a little bit about the reading and everything. So it was just a really, really special time. So
if you want more information in general, folks, it is a chapter in our second book, Cayce book, which is True Tales. True Tales. Oh, there he is. Look at that. Someone moves fast. In any event, it was a truly miraculous story when most people were dying of tuberculosis. Cayce gave recommendations for him. He was just a young man. He was in his teens, and the recommendations cured him. And his whole goal in life was to come and meet Edgar Cayce, but he missed him. Edgar had passed away by the time he was able to do that. But he made many changes in his life, pledging to help and support different causes, all a result of his gratitude for what happened to him. it's a wonderful story. Thank you, Paul, for mentioning that.
I just put the link to the YouTube in the chat so people can watch the YouTube on that.
Oh, well, you guys are tech brilliant. Thank you.
I have my moments.
Yeah, no kidding.
I have my moments. I remember the lineup for Faith's hug. Like it
Yeah,
was such a
see,
huge lineup for Faith, for people waiting to get a hug from Faith.
yeah, those were worthwhile hugs for sure.
They helped me as much as they helped anybody else.
We'll have to do that again, Faith.
I wish.
Are you up to traveling at all?
Not at all, Nancy.
So we'll have to bring the lineup to you. How's
You
that?
try.
Okay.
I'll tell you, Carol Sue knows that I'll hug anyone that comes into my house because she said, "You don't know any strangers, do you?" I said, "Nope."
I just feel so grateful to Nancy and Sid for having connected Faith with this Cayce family, and and Nancy for introducing me to Faith. It's just been a life highlight to get connected, and I just feel very connected still. It's just wonderful. And but I sure, when we were traveling around the 2 or 3 days that I was there, I just saw it up close and personal that Faith, wherever we went, whether it was the souvenir shop or Walmart or what restaurant, whatever it was, she was meeting new friends.
Yeah.
Everywhere she
Yes. Sociable woman. The very first time we brought Faith she was incognito to the Congress, and we talked her into coming. She was my Aunt Faye, and that's how we introduced her. So she was just a family member tagging along, and then eventually we talked her into coming out of the closet, as they say.
What was odd, Nancy, was that the first question after you finished your presentation was, "Whatever happened to little Faith?" Remember?
Yeah, I mean, and we always have, that's always been almost inevitable, a question that would come up whenever we were in conferences. And I don't know if you remember, but I actually did a talk that had lots of pictures and your story and all of that. Did you remember? You were there for one of them. You saw it, right?
Yes.
But I still have that. At some point, I might dust it off and do it again.
Well, have fun with it.
We'll have a surprise ending. We'll have you stand up and say hello, give a hug. One of my favorite stories from my research into faith and as Elizabeth and Mother of St. John the Baptist is I came across readings for a woman in New York City who had a company called Fur Fluff. And she was getting business advice. And her job, her business was, back in the day when women typically wore furs, and the less expensive furs were harder to take care of. And so she was developing this product called Fur Fluff that would help revive any fur coats. And she was having trouble with the business and getting readings. But what struck me is the most interesting is that it turned out that she was in that business because, as sister of St. John the Baptist, she used to make fun of him and how he wore, just very basic clothing and furs and skins and that kind of thing. And because of that, I think Cayce indicated she'd have several lifetimes having to work with animal skins and furs. Isn't that the funniest thing? But it made me kind of feel a little bit better just about myself and people in our lives. It's like, well, gee, if the sister of St. John the Baptist is in New York running an unsuccessful business, that kind of gives me hope that maybe the rest of us are potentially have, pretty interesting backgrounds as well. It was one of the best stories I've read.
That's a
I'm
good
not
one.
sure if we mentioned that.
Yeah, and then hopefully tonight after Herb, we'll do a closing meditation, and then we can have more of this sharing, which is always nice. Like the meditation from yesterday, like my hands were burning. They really were. Like my hands were burning at the end of that meditation. That was a powerful meditation.
Isn't that what happens to you, Faith, when you feel the need to heal somebody? Your hands start burning?
Yeah, that's correct.
You know,
Healing
John,
hands.
my wife said the same thing after doing your meditation last night. She really loved it.
Oh,
it was great.
John, you've just done a marvelous job. And how many now that you've done of this particular weekend, the international?
This is our 5th year doing it. So it's been it's our 5th year. So it's been flying by. It goes fast. But I got a lot out of it.
As does everybody else.
You put a lot to it.
Yeah, but it's so nice to see everyone and to put the whole Cayce family together. Like you might call me the glue, Nancy, but you and Sid
Yes,
used
you're
to be
the glue.
Well, you and Sid you still are the glue. You put a lot of us together too.
Really
It was
There, hopefully one advantage of Sid being on the other side is that he can maybe do some pretty good stuff from over there.